or interested persons be and is hereby renewed. Dated the 11th day of December 2020 by the order of the board, signed by the Company Secretary, Mr. Jacqueline Ezio Polime. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. We will now consider the annual report, which was sent to you in advance. I would crave your indulgence to take as read the chairman's statement, which is contained on pages 5 to 9 of the report, as I believe that you have already you received and you read it. So thank you very much for that. We will now be tabling the accounts and the director's report. I know some of you may have questions or comments to make, and I would therefore be pleased to respond to all of them after the accounts and the reports have been tabled before the meeting. The accounts are set out pages 39 to 100 of the annual report. The original signed copies of the accounts are also available with the Secretariat. I will now call on the representatives of Deloitte and Touche to read the auditor's report as set out in the annual report. I will now call on the representatives of Deloitte and
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'm here to present the independent auditor's report to the shareholders of PZ Cussons Nigeria PLC. The report is on page 35. I'm here to present the independent auditor's report of the annual report. It is a 4-page document. With your permission, Mr. Chairman, I would like to read the opinion and the last paragraph on the report. Report on the audit of the consolidated and separate financial statements. We have audited the accompanying consolidated and separate financial statement of PZ Cussons Nigeria PLC, the company, and its subsidiary, together referred to as the group, which comprise the consolidated and separate financial statements as at 31st May 2020, and the consolidated and separate statement of profit and loss, other comprehensive income, the consolidated and separate statement of changes in equity, and the consolidated and separate statement of cash flows for the year then ended. The notes to the consolidated and separate financial statements, including a summary of significant accounting policies and other explanatory information. In our opinion, the consolidated and separate financial statements give a true and fair view of the consolidated and separate financial position of PZ Cussons Nigeria PLC as at 31st May 2020, and its consolidated and separate financial performance and consolidated and separate cash flows for the year then ended, in accordance with the International Financial Reporting Standards, the requirements of the Companies and Allied Matters Act, and the Financial Reporting Council Act of 2011. In accordance with the Companies and Allied Matters Act, we expressly state that we have obtained all the information and explanations which, to the best of our knowledge and belief, were necessary for the purpose of our audit. The group have kept proper books of account so far as appears from our examination of those books. The group and the company's financial position, statements of profit or loss, and other comprehensive income are in agreement with the books of accounts and return. Signed, Azan Lawal, Deloitte and Touche, Chartered Accountant, 2nd October 2020. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hassan Lawal. I will now call on a member of the Audit Committee to read the committee's report.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. The report of the Audit Committee is on page 33 of this annual report. Report of the Audit Committee for the year ended 31st May 2020. To the members of PZ Cussons Nigeria PLC, in preparing this financial statement, directors are responsible for A. Review the scope and planning of the audit requirements and found them adequate. We have reviewed the financial statements for the year ended 31st May 2020 and are satisfied with the explanations obtained. C, we have reviewed the external auditor's management letter for the year ended May 31st, 2020, and are satisfied that management is taking the appropriate steps to address the issues raised. And D, we have ascertained that the accounting and reporting policies for the year ended 31st May 2020 are in accordance with legal requirements and agreed ethical practices. The external auditors confirmed having received full cooperation from the company's management and that the scope of their works was not restricted in any way. Signed by Mrs. E. Ebi, Chairperson for the Audit Committee. Other members are Mr. O.I. Obanide, Mr. Honorable B. Nwabogu, Malam L. Batagarawa, Mr. A. Goma, retired, and Mr. G. Sotripoulos, and being presented to this annual general meeting members by Eric Akinduro. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Akinduro. The report of directors is on pages 24 to 31. In order to save time, I would also like to take this as read, and I would therefore like to ask for questions or comments on the totality of the annual reports. If you wish to ask a question or make a comment, please indicate by raising your hand, and on being permitted, kindly introduce yourself before stating your question or comment. Please hand over your admission card to the hostess nearest to you. It will be returned to you after the Assistant Company Secretary has taken down your name. We will now take questions or comments on the annual reports as presented in the report circulated and the accounts that have been presented today. Questions and comments, please. Thank you.
Good morning, the chairman of the board of PZ, Nigerian Cussons PLC, members of the board of directors, management staff, my fellow shareholders, the regulator present, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. My name is Patrick Ajudo. Mr. Chairman, I said good morning. Good morning. It is on a very bright note I would like to start my comments, because I know it was a very difficult year, but with the coming on board of the MD and the CFO, I saw some levels of commitment and redirection of the activities of the company. So we are very glad with your quarterly report that you have released so far. That shows a light at the end of the tunnel. Mr. Chairman, I will first start from the comment of the last speaker on the audit committee member, which he said is on page 33. One thing struck me as he's reading the comments, but I didn't even take note of it earlier, is the introduction, and I mean, is the presence of Mr. George Sotripoulos Greek. He's an executive director. And Mr. Chairman, you are a custodian of corporate governance. You know that executive directors are not supposed to be members of the audit committee. Most audit committee that you have seen is made up of independent non-executive directors and non-executive directors. So we expect, as you come on board right now, that you try and make correction, that it's only a non-executive directors that are allowed to be members in compliance with Code of Corporate Governance. which I'm sure that the Secretary will make available to you. Mr. Chairman, I want to welcome you to the board and also to express our deep thanks and appreciation to our former chairman, who have done tremendously well throughout his tenure as chairman of the board. He has displayed a lot of sense of fatherly role and professionalism. Chief Kolawole Jamodu, we appreciate him and we want to wish him the best in his future endeavor. We also wish to join in welcoming you, sir, Mr. Oyebode Aluko, MFR, and a member of the Belgium Honorary Knights. It's our prayer, sir, that with your wealth of experience, that you bring it to bear in the company. And we know that you have been chairman of Access Bank, chairman of Okomu Oil, and then also a lead player in the NBA. So, Mr. Chairman, we are very glad to see you today at your assumption, official assumption, as the chairman of PZ. We pray that God will assist you to succeed. Mr. Chairman, we also express our gladness and happiness to the former MD, who have done very, very well. And then also we welcome our new MD, Mr. Cussons, who I always call my fellow brother, even though the color is different, but we share the same knowledge and the same brain. So we know where he's coming from, and we believe that in conjunction with the CFO, Mr. Momoniat, they are going to make a real turnaround in this company. Because one thing for us is that we don't want to be here to hear that the company continuously make loss. We want them to ensure that they sustain this level of profitability that they are going towards. And it's our prayer that we, the shareholders, are going to give them our maximum support so that they can achieve their objective. I also will not forget our retiring director, Alhaji Patagrawa, and also Malan Dairu, who will be going away from the board. We pray that they will meet a better thing in their future endeavor. Mr. Chairman, though she is not a member of the board, the company secretary, but we also want to felicitate and show our happiness that she today added one more to our family. She was delivered with a baby girl, and then also she would have loved to be here, but I know that he has to answer call of nature as a woman. So we pray that God will keep the baby alive, and then also God will bless our family. Amen. Mr. Chairman, I want to commend the EGM that we did. It was a very successful one, and I was made that to understand that immediately after the meeting, payment was made, and then the transaction was fully completed. It shows the commitment of the board to redirect. And we only hope that going forward, Mr. Chairman, the board will utilize the money, for a very fruitful use for the company. Mr. Chairman, I also would like to also commend on page 8, the PZ Foundation for Education, especially on chemistry. To me, according to Benjamin Franklin, an investment in knowledge is in the best interest of any nation. When you give someone education, you are giving that person the ability to lift himself or herself from poverty. End of quote. So, we are very glad that PZ, this was the 6th edition, and they have done very well. And we believe that the nation requires this at this particular time, more than ever. investment in chemistry and science will take us to a greater level. So we want to encourage you to continue in this right direction. Mr. Chairman, on page 81, which I will tie to page 8 of the annual report, it is the fact that for us shareholders, we invest to earn returns. And so for any company that is paying us dividend, it is our joy to appreciate that company. You have decided to give us a dividend of 10 kobo, and we appreciate you, Mr. Chairman, because last year was 15 kobo, and I know that it is with a difficult time that you are able to give us that. But we appreciate you, and we look forward to a better dividend payment. For us, Mr. Chairman, we will just be asking you a question from that point. Where exactly are you paying the money from? That money you are paying now as a form of dividend, is it from the sales proceed of the property, or from the retained earning, or from your share premium? Because it was silent all throughout your statement. So we look forward to where that money is being paid for. Mr. Chairman, on page 38 is the external auditor's reports. For consistently 3-4 years now, there is an issue of export expansion grants, EEG. And we have been carrying a figure of in the range of 1.67 billion for EEG and for direct credits of 1.59 billion. Mr. Chairman, one of the problems that have been highlighted is that the Nigeria Export Promotion Council have stopped issuance of NDCC for settlement of EEG. What is the new board doing? Is it that we have to take action to stop this or recognize this? I don't know. But we cannot keep on carrying this figure for as long as possible. This is the 6th year this issue is. So the board must decide to take a decision on this matter. Mr. Chairman, on page 74 is the receivable. And part of my concern about receivable is the fact that it dropped from 13 billion to 8 billion. But look at the impairment, 1.37 billion, which arose as a result of the number of receivables we have. What is the management doing to ensure aggressive debt collection? How far have we gone with reviewing of our aging analysis of our receivables? Those receivables, are they made from the distributors or from where? We need to look at them. We need to look at the timeline with which we are supposed to receive this money. Because when we receive this liquid money, it will be able to enhance our operation. On page 76 is the issue of other assets. I want to commend the company for investing over 1 billion in the promotion and development of showroom for HPZ distributors. If you don't do that, how will people know? If I'm walking into a shop and I see how beautiful, how well designed, then I know, yes, they have a very good product. So I want to encourage you. You must try to do more for your distributors so that they'll be able to market your products. If you talk about receivable, you must also talk about payable, which is on page 80. One worry, dear Mr. Chairman, and when you look at that, is that our payable rose from 29 billion to over 37 billion. It shows me a sign of concern because if we continue to have an increase in payable, we may run into a problem in terms of repaying our creditors. So a function of that is the function of the receivable. If we do everything possible, review the payment timeline for our creditors, and do as well to reduce our exposures within that reach, Part of it is the issue of the unclaimed dividend, Mr. Chairman. Unclaimed dividend from 1.96 billion to over 1.86 billion, out of which, Mr. Chairman, 160 million was returned in this accounting year that we are considering. It becomes worry to us. And when you are in Nigeria, you will know what has happened over the last few weeks and months on the issue of unclaimed dividend. The company must work along with the registrar to make sure that this issue is addressed holistically. Yes, government have come out with a finance act. But Mr. Chairman, you are aware that yours truly and Sir Dr. and Sir Nwosu represented the shareholder at the public hearing in the National Assembly when we are discussing this issue of unclaimed dividend trust fund. And we said it clearly that government has no business in annexing or claim or wanting to take over the unclaimed dividend. It is purely for shareholders, investors in the capital market. And of course, our worry is that when you are taking money forcefully from somebody without his consent, what does that mean? You are either discouraging people in the capital market. So company must do as well, because returning 160 is very heavy. How much then will be returned this year? If you look at that page, Mr. Chairman, before it was 83 million. Now they return 160. God knows what they will do this year, maybe 320 million. And these are people's money. So company must do their best in that direction. Mr. Chairman, on page 82 is the operating expenses. If you are working with your top line, you must also make sure that you reduce your expenses in order to have a better bottom line. If you go to the main account itself on page 37, Mr. Chairman, you will discover that a revenue drop to 66.7 billion and a high cost of sale of over 58 billion caused us to have a loss of 7.9 billion. But we are more, the tax credit helps us. If the CFO noted, over 7.5 million was received as tax credit. That is what reduces our level of loss. But under OPEX, freight charges still stood at 2 billion. Mr. Chairman, is it demurrage or what? We are calling on government at this time because PZ is part of those who have assisted during this pandemic period. And we expect government to do something in form of palliative to the manufacturing sector, which where PZ is, by giving them tax relief or adjusted relief in terms of import, and then also give them flexibility in the foreign exchange. But here we are, Mr. Chairman, over 2 billion. And apart from that, also, when you check that page, Mr. Chairman, you will discover that there is a rise in the auditor's remuneration. Page 82. Auditor's remuneration rose from 50 million to 123 million. So, Mr. Chairman, we'll be asking you, why do we have increase? Increase of over 70. I don't know whether the audit committee, whether they are even aware, because this is a very, very great sum to us. We are worried that auditors have taken over our money, because such a huge increase calls for question and clarification. Mr. Chairman, on page 84 is the revenue segmentation. I said it last year that we need to do something in terms of our exports. Over 90% of our revenue under segmentation is gotten from Nigeria. What is happening to our exports? What is happening to other countries? Ghana, Kenya, where is the revenue coming from there? So, Mr. Chairman, we must also leverage on this our performance. Two, when you look at the composition of the board, one of the board members, Mr. Alex Goma, left the board. He's in Nigeria. And out of it, Mr. Chairman, we only have one Nigerian left in an executive capacity, Ms. Coker. It is high time that they use a Nigerian to replace for Mr. Goma. It is very important. It shows the commitment, it shows the interest you have in Nigerian people. Now, two non-executive directors are going. Alhaji Dairu, Batagrawa is going. We must make sure that those who are going to replace them are those people from Nigeria with vast experience. My interaction with your regional manager in Abuja gives me a clue that if we have board members who are versatile and who are experienced, who are highly connected, PZ will not be in this position. And I want UMD to take note of it. Because why? The governor of Bauchi State was a friend of one of your directors. But how many business have you gotten from Bauchi? So we must look forward to directors who come on board, who are going to add value, and we are going to tax to make sure that they use their influence and connection to be able to get us more business. There is more business prospect in the north. And I'm sure that if you tap that potentials, we are going to do well. So, Mr. Chairman, it is a source of encouragement for us shareholders to you that your coming on board is a blessed one. And we believe that it will add more value and then more turnaround to the benefit of us shareholders and to the benefit of the staffs and management of PZ. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the Board of Directors. My name is Ibekwe Roberts Adenoba. I'm a shareholder. Meanwhile, I'm standing in for my principal, Sir Sonny Wosu. Truly, the report we have here is more of a historical, because it's that of 2020, May 31st. And the report is okay, very well. It is okay by us shareholders. Please permit me again to go back a little before I continue. My principal said I should send his appreciation to you, to welcome you on the board as our current chairman. Having said that, I want to say that the last speaker has actually touched most of the points that I, as an individual, as a shareholder, prepared to ask. Be that as it may, as a group, the Independent Shareholders Association, we have sent in our stand, our take on the annual reports. But on my own personal capacity, like I said, the last speaker has made mention of most of the points. But I want to ask, using these annual reports and starting from the front page, we can see that our company has done well. They are doing very well. But during this new norm of COVID, I can see that our company is actually into three major segments of the economy and very vibrant sectors in the economy and lively sectors, for that matter, that has no season. We are into personal care, we're into home care, and I should also say we are into health care. If you take a look at the front page here, you can see that most of the things here are things that are needed every day. So my question now is, what are we doing to make sure that we leverage on, I don't want to say as if thanks to pandemic, no thanks to pandemic, but with our personal care products here, what efforts, what plans do we have going forward to make or to leverage from these products of ours? The personal care, the home and healthcare. So that is my own personal question that I want us to, Then, having said that also, I want to make mention of what he said regarding our dividends. He asked a question, where is the dividends coming from? Because if you take a look at the financial highlights, we are actually having some losses. Is it from the recent sell-off of our property, the Nitrosima, or is it from reserve? We want to know. But all the same, we are grateful for the dividends. Last year, you paid us 15 kobo. This year, you are paying us 10 kobo. But there's an interesting thing about that. You are paying us almost immediate, as if the next working day. Today is Friday. By first being Monday, we are going to have our dividend paid. We are so grateful about that. We thank you. Once again, Ibekwe Robert is my name, and I welcome you, Chairman, to the board. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. If there are no other questions or any other comments, before we proceed to the business of the day around the voting, I would like the Chief Executive Officer to respond to some of the questions that have been asked. I note that Mr. Juju has referred to some other questions and also Mr. Mbakwe. So we will try and respond to as many of the questions as possible. Okay, Zubair will take it. Okay. You will take the demo. Okay. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, please.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
We'll try and do that speedily.
Speedily, yeah.
We'll just speak straight to the point.
Yeah. So just in terms of the distributable reserves, if you take note on page 96, note number 30, it says it's out from distributable reserves. That's where we pay the dividend from. In terms of the age analysis of the receivables, I think we should actually commend in terms of the light coming through from the COVID situation for us to reduce overall debtors by 3 billion over year, and reduce our debtor days from 47 days to 30 days. That's a good achievement. So yes, work has been done around the receivable days, and we're looking at analysis constantly to ensure that we can actually get value for our shareholders and value for the business at the end of the day. In terms of the payables, yes, the amount did increase substantially year over year, but one should take into consideration that there was a lot of liquidity headwinds coming through from dollar availability. This has actually prevented us from getting enough dollars to settle that obligations. Currently, we're working on getting that debt down, and we've actually made good progress at the half year, and we get to see benefits coming through for the full year, for this financial year. Now, in terms of the contingent liability, the Equate property, at this particular point in time, there's no further update that I can give at this stage, unless the company secretary has anything else further to add on that one. Okay. In terms of the NOTAP agreement, that is in the process of being submitted as we speak right now. I think in terms of what question came through upon us regarding what are we doing from a business perspective, commercial perspective.
Yes, I can answer this question, Zubair. Thank you for that. So I started really my role as the CEO of PZ Cussons Nigeria PLC in the midst of the lockdown last quarter of last year, which was triggered, of course, by the COVID-19 crisis. I regard it as a huge privilege and also a huge responsibility to take the lead of the business with such a rich, a very long history, and especially now where the times are so challenging, as our consumers are demanding far more than us, and of course the consumer habits are changing so rapidly. Following on from last year's strategic review, we continue to implement our focus, scale, and accelerate strategy, which is going to be looking to accelerate the growth, by focusing on 3 key priorities. Priority number 1, focusing on key brands and key categories across our portfolio. Secondly, upweight the investments behind our brands, behind our marketing capability. Number 3, and equally very, very important, strengthening our route to the markets and strengthening our distribution of our brands across the Federation. And number 4, continue to simplify our business, continue to simplify our operations in order to improve our margins and unlock the oxygen that we require into our balance sheets, the oxygen that we require in our P&L in order to continue to fund some of the investments behind our selective brands. And I think that during the last few months, there has been a lot of work specifically behind the personal care and the home care business. I think some of the outcome of that hard work has been reflected on the first half sets of our financials, that we are very happy, and very happy that our shareholders acknowledge the level of the hard work that has gone behind it. And of course, for us, the priority is that we want to see our brands growing, and this is going to be our key indicator for our success. And of course, our top priority for the business and for the board is to return the business back to growth and back to profitability.
That we needed to respond to?
I think, Mr. Chairman, I think the main one was around the unclaimed dividends. So this is, I think, the key priority right now. So from a company perspective, we've been working with our registrars, just to ensure that we get everybody, all the shareholders we can identify listed, so we can get those dividends paid. There are other avenues that will be available, which I believe the registrars will discuss with the shareholders, so that at least we can identify everybody and get the dividends out as soon as possible.
So just to round up on some of those, there are some, what I'd like to think of as some general issues that have been raised, and just very quickly to respond to that. I mean, I think it's important. I think Mr. Juju made mention of composition of the board, and Nigerian executive directors on the board. I think what you need to let's pay attention to is that our company is a long-standing investor in the Nigerian economy. We'll constantly do what is right, not just for us, but for all our stakeholders and shareholders. And I can assure you that we constantly look at issues around board representation, both for our executive directors and for our independent non-execs. And so I think you should be rest assured that we will constantly be reviewing these situations to increase board representation. I think that's important to put on record. I think you also made mention around the issue of the audit committee representation of executive directors on the audit committee. We will take a look at this, and I assure you that we will come back with a position before the next annual general meeting. You also made reference to the EEG. I mean, the policy of government, well, maybe not the policy. The policy of government is that the grants will be paid. I mean, obviously, there's been a slowdown in this. We continue to accrue it because the law remains the law. But I think it's incumbent on all stakeholders to continue to raise this issue. It's not something that companies can do by themselves. And as you know, this is a policy that applies to all exporters out of Nigeria. And it's one of the reasons why when we all talk about a lack of exports, one of the reasons, as you can imagine, is the fact that the incentives that have been built into the system don't appear to be working. You also made a mention of unclaimed dividends, I think, and your representation at the public session. I think it's important that shareholders particularly shareholder associations that represent all Nigerian shareholders, particularly around companies like ours that have been around in excess of 50 years. Since indigenization in 1977, that a lot of our shareholders are either pensioners or people who have since changed their addresses, and that's the reason for the unclaimed dividends. But I think it's important that we continue the campaign, and as you know, as a company, we continue to do that. And our registrars have always worked on the basis of let's try and reach as many people as is possible. We will continue that, but I think it's important that it's a joint effort between the corporates and shareholder associations, particularly because you know the shareholders and have maybe a much better way of reaching out to shareholders. I think I've touched on most of the outstanding issues. Again, our shareholders for the questions that you've asked, the attention that you are paying to the detail that's contained in our reports, and the fact that we continue to remain as transparent as you want us to be, and we will, as questions arise and as issues arise, we will address them. Ours is a company that is totally open book, and therefore if there are any issues, there's no reason for us to wait till the end of a year or an AGM. If there are issues, please make contact with management, and I'm sure we'll be able to respond to them. So thank you very much for your questions. I will now invite the registrars to explain to the members the voting process and how to use the voting device.
Thank you once again, Mr. Chairman. For the purpose of voting, the voting is going to be done using the e-voting device, which has already been given to shareholders who are physically present. If you are in favor of any resolution, you please press 1 on the button of the e-voting device given to you. But if you are against any resolution, please press 2. And there is a time set for the purpose of voting. During the course of voting, if you wish to change your mind before the voting ends, you can equally do so. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think we will now go straight to the ordinary business of the day, which is the adoption of the accounts which have been presented. I now propose that the report of directors tabled at this meeting, along with the balance sheet of the company and the group for the year ended on that date, be and is hereby received and adopted. Will someone please second that motion?
Mr. Chairman, I rise to second. My name is Patrick.
Mr. Jujua, thank you very much. Those in favor of the motion, can you please signify by using the voting device as already explained to us by the registrars? You have 2 minutes. Input your votes on the device, and then we'll have a further 2 minutes just for the registrar to collate. So I'll hand over to the registrar to commence the process.
Thank you very much. Like I said earlier, for the purpose of voting, you will press 1 if you are in favor of the resolution. But if you are against, you press 2. That is the resolution that has already been displayed. If you are in favor of that resolution, please press 1. If you are against, please press 2. The voting is about to commence. Poll is now opened. Eh? You just press 1. If you have pressed 1, it has already counted. Police, you count down, please. Just a minute. Just a minute.
Okay.
That issue is there. Yeah. Okay, it's up. Yeah. 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 We have 1 responses already. 2 responses. 3.
So I think what we'll do the next time is you will tell us when to input,
Yeah,
because a few people may have done it before your,
Yeah.
just so that we get
Poll
it
is
right.
now open. Count down, please. You have 9 seconds left. 7 seconds. 6, 5, 4, 3.
Okay.
Time's up. The result, please. At the end of the voting on that resolution, we have 154 shareholders voting presently and by proxy, having the total number of shares of 2,945,297,121. 100%. No dissenting votes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I hereby declare that the motion has been carried unanimously. The next resolution is the declaration of dividend. Your directors have recommended the final dividend of 10 kobo per share, amounting to 397,047,700 naira only. If this is approved, it will be paid on Monday, the 1st of February, to all shareholders on the company's register of members at the close of business on Friday, 16th October 2020. I propose that a dividend of 10 kobo per share, amounting to 397,047,700 naira only, be and is hereby declared for the year ended 31st May 2020 and payable after deducting withholding tax on Monday, the 1st of February, to those shareholders registered on the books of the company at the close of business on Friday, 16th October 2020. Will someone please second the motion? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Robert Ibekwe. Again, Registrar, can you take us through the process?
For the purpose of voting on the second resolution, which is to declare dividend, if you are in favor of that resolution, press 1. If you are against the resolution, please press 2. The poll is open. We have 3 responses already, 5 responses, 6 responses gotten. Count down, please. 9 seconds left. 6 seconds. Time up. The result is, at the end of the voting on that resolution, which is to declare dividend, we have 154 shareholders physically present and voting and with proxy, having the total shares of 2,945,297,121. 100%. No against. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I hereby declare that the motion has been carried unanimously. We'll proceed to the next resolution, which is re-election of directors. As shown on page 25 of the annual report, the following directors are due for re-election: Mrs. Elizabeth Ebi, Madam Dahiru Mohammed, and Mr. Georgios Soteropoulos. Madam Dahiru Mohammed will be retiring at the end of this meeting and will not be subject to re-election. We thank him for his contributions to the board during the period of his tenure. Distinguished shareholders, this part of the proceedings inevitably takes some time as each vote is to be taken for each of the directors separately. Therefore, to save time, based on the provisions of Section 287(1) of the Companies and Allied Matters, to elect 2 directors with a single provision provided that no one disagrees. The law requires that a public company, a single resolution to appoint 2 or more persons as directors requires that the meeting should first unanimously agree that the resolution shall be so made. I therefore move that the election of 2 directors be made at this meeting with 1 resolution. Will someone please second this motion?
Mr. Chairman, point of order. What's that section that is under what I refer to as meetings that are not conducted in these circumstances we are in now. For a meeting of this nature, Mr. Chairman, we cannot combine both of them because people who are outside must also have that privilege and opportunity to be able to vote individually for them. So it is better that we take them one by one in compliance with the regulation under this meeting we are moving. That is my submission, and that has been our practice since the inception of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Juju, thank you very much for your comments. We'll take the resolutions individually. The first director that we will take is Mrs. Elizabeth Ebi. Can I have somebody, I hereby propose the reappointment of Mrs. Elizabeth Ebi, who retires by rotation at this meeting and has offered herself for re-election as a director. Can I have somebody please second the motion? Thank you, Mr. Akin. Thank you. Registrar?
Yeah.
So we'll take each resolution. Yeah.
Yeah. For the purpose of voting or to elect Mrs. Elizabeth Ebi as a director, please press 1 if you are in favor, while you press 2 if you are against that resolution. Five responses gotten so far. 6. Stand down. Have 9 seconds left. 7 seconds. 5, 4, 2, 1. 4 close. Time up. Please display the result. At the end of the voting on this resolution, which is to re-elect Mrs. Elizabeth Ebi as the director of PZ Cussons Nigerian PLC, we have 154 shareholders physically present and by proxy voting in favor, having 2,945,297,121 shares, 100%, no against. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I hereby declare that the resolution to re-elect Mrs. Elizabeth Ebi, the motion is carried unanimously. The second resolution, I propose that Mr. Georgios Soteropoulos, who retires by rotation at this meeting and has offered himself for re-election, be and is hereby re-elected as a director of our company. Can I have somebody please second this motion? Honorable Nwebogu, thank you very much.
For the purpose of voting, that is to elect the next director. If you are in favor of that resolution, please press 1. If you are against the resolution, please press 2. So 4 shareholders already voted who are physically present. 5 shareholders physically present have voted. 6. Five seconds left. 4 seconds. 3 seconds. 1 second. Poll closed. At the end of the voting, to re-elect Mr. Georgios Soutropoulos as the director of PCL Cussons Nigerian PSC, we have 154 shareholders physically present and by proxy voting in favor of that resolution with a total shares of 2,947,297,121 units, 100%, no dissenting votes.
Thank you very much. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I hereby declare that the motion is carried unanimously. I'll now proceed to the next resolution, which is the election of directors. As shown in the report of directors at page 25 of the annual report, Mr. Panagiotis Cussons and Mr. Zubair Momoniat were appointed to the board after the last general meeting. The appointments are now being presented for shareholders' approval. Again, we will take each one of these appointments individually. I hereby propose that Mr. Panagiotis Cussons, Panagiotis Cussons is presented for re-election to the board of our company. Mr. Go ahead.
Okay, for the purpose of voting on that resolution, please press 1 if you are able.
I need somebody to second the motion. Second. Thank you, Chief Obaniji.
Mr. Chairman, sir, we do not know who you call now.
See you.
Oh,
sorry. No problem.
Because the others you are showing us on the screen.
Okay.
And now
I assume that you knew who he was.
Yes,
okay. Mr. Cussons. Thank you. Thank you.
For the purpose of voting to elect the next director, Mr. P. Cussons, please press 1 if you are in favor of that resolution, while you press 2 if you are against the resolution. Poll is about to commence. Yeah. You have 9 seconds, 7 seconds, 6 seconds, 4 seconds left, 2 seconds. Time up. At the end of the voting, to elect Mr. Panagiotis Cussons as the director of PCL Cussons Nigerian PSC, we have 154 shareholders physically present and by proxy voting in favor of that resolution with a total shares of 2,945,297,121, representing 100%, no against. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I declare that that motion is carried unanimously. I now propose that Mr. Zubair Momoniat is hereby re-elected as a director of our company. Zubair has already stood up to be recognized. Can I have somebody please second that motion? Thank you very much, Mr. Robert Ibekwe.
For the purpose of voting to elect Mr. Zubair Momoniat as the director of PCL Cussons Nigerian PSC, please press 1 if you are in favor of that resolution. Press 2 if you are against the resolution. Thank you. We have 4 shareholders already voted. 5, 6. Okay. Count down, please. 9 seconds left. 8 seconds. 6 seconds. 4. Time up. Result, please. At the end of the voting on that resolution, we have 154 shareholders physically present and voting by proxy, having a total shares of 2,945,297,121, representing 100%. No against. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I hereby declare that the motion is carried unanimously. As the next resolution is with respect to my re-election, I'll hand over to our Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Panagiotis Katsis, to take that resolution.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. As shown in the reports of the directors at page 25 of the annual report, Mr. Benga Oyebode was appointed.
So let me stand up for record.
Yes, was appointed to the board after the last annual general meeting. His appointment is now being presented for shareholders' approval. I propose that Mr. Benga Oyebode, who was appointed to the boards after the last annual general meeting, is hereby approved as director of the company. Will someone please second the motion?
Mr. Chairman, for being a very good chairman that I know will continue to be, I rise to second the motion. My name is Patrick.
Thank you very much, Mr. Patrick.
For the purpose of voting on that resolution, that is to elect Mr. Benga Oyebode, MFR, as the Director of Cussons Nigeria PLC. Press 1 if you are in favor, while you press 2 if you are against. 3 shareholders have already voted. 4 shareholders. Okay, 6 shareholders voted. Okay. You have 9 seconds left. 7. 4 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Time up. Result, please. At the end of the voting exercise on that resolution, we have 153 shareholders physically present and voting by proxy, having 2,945,296,888 shares, 100% no against.
Thank you very much. I hereby declare the motion carried unanimously.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Katsis, and then I thank our shareholders for the vote of confidence. I will now proceed to the fourth resolution, which is to authorize directors to fix the remuneration of the auditors. I propose that directors be and are hereby authorized to fix the remuneration of the auditors. Will someone please second this motion?
Chairman, please, point of order.
Yes.
When we come to this resolution, I did not get an answer to that.
Oh, to the increase in...
From 50 million to 123 million. So we look forward to them to give us reason why such a fall. They are here, they can report back at home.
No, they will report back, but you'll also get a response.
Now, Mr. Patrick, so this year as part of the audit procedures, they did a bit more work. Yes, regarding the financial statements, just in order to give the comfort around everything, we believe that there will actually be an improvement in the fee charge for this current financial year, a reduction coming through. So it's just a one-off, but we will see savings coming through.
So reduction is coming forward.
Yep. Thank you very much. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you. Honorable Wabogu, thank you very much.
For the purpose of voting on that resolution, please press 1 if you are in favor, press 2 if you are against. We have 4 shareholders voted in favor, 5 shareholders, 5 shareholders. 9 seconds left, 7 seconds, 6 seconds, 4, 3, 1, 7. Time up. Result. At the end of the voting on that resolution to authorize the director to fix the remuneration of the auditors, we have 153 shareholders physically present and by proxy voting in favor of that resolution, with a total shares of 2,945,288,469 shares, 100% no against. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I declare that the motion has been carried unanimously. We'll go to Resolution 5, which is to elect members of the Audit Committee. The Companies and Allied Matters Act in Section 404, subsection 3, provides a maximum of 6 members of the Audit Committee, consisting of an equal number of directors and representatives of the shareholders to be elected at an annual general meeting. The law also provides for nominations to be received no later than 21 days before the date of the meeting in the case of representatives of shareholders. As at the close of business on the 8th of January, 2021, the following people have been nominated as representatives of shareholders. Each nominee should please stand to be recognized. Honorable Bright Nwobogu. Thank you. Chief Isaac Obarinde. Mr. Eric Akinduro. As reported by the registrars, all nominees were returned unopposed. I now propose that the resolution to elect members of the Audit Committee is hereby moved and adopted. Can I have somebody please second this motion?
Mr. Chairman, where is the director's company?
All right. Okay, so what we'll do, we will nominate today, because Malam Dairu has retired, it will be Mrs. Elizabeth Ebi, Mr. Paul Usoro, and for the meantime, we'll renominate Georges Spiropoulos. I have taken notice of the issues you raised, and I will make sure that we clarify those issues very quickly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good.
Okay,
So can I? So we've made the proposal for the 3 nominees, shareholder nominees. Can I have somebody please second that? Thank you very much. So we'll now take the.
So, in addition to the 3 representatives of board of directors that we had in the audit committee.
Mr. Chairman, sort of correction, please. Under the audit committee regulation, we are not expected to go back home. And the register, you know that.
That you're not taking.
I'm not voting.
We are not expected to go back. Once you have get their name, the second, we move on. Okay. Next one.
Yes.
There's nothing like poll at all.
There is no, even if there is going to be election on the audit committee, definitely it won't be by poll. It's going to be by show of hands. However, we only have 3 nominees. and we have 3 vacancies. So what I'm trying to do is just to display their name. I said in addition to those people that will be nominated by the board, the following people are the ones that will serve in the audit committee. That is my statement that I wanted to make. Thank you.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the shareholders' representatives for the audit committee, Mr. Eric Akinduro, Honorable Bright Nwobogu, and Chief Isaac Obanide. The directors nominated for membership of the committee are Mrs. Elizabeth Ebi, Mr. George Soteropoulos, and Mr. Paul Usoro. Thank you very much. So I propose that Mrs. Ebi, Mr. Soteropoulos, and Mr. Paul Usoro, who are directors of the company, as well as nominated shareholder representatives, are appointed as members of the audit committee. Okay. So we'll now go to the special business of the day. The special business is to approve remuneration of directors. Okay. So I will request the CEO to coordinate this aspect of the proceedings.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I now propose that the resolution to approve the remuneration of the directors be hereby moved and adopted. Will someone please second the motion? Thank you very much, Mr. Patrick.
Yeah. For the purpose of voting on that resolution, please, you press 1 if you are in favor of that resolution, press 2 if you are against. That is to approve the remuneration of the directors. We have 3, 4 shareholders voted. 5 shareholders voted. Physically present. 5 shareholders. 6. Okay. Thank you. You have 9 seconds left. 7 seconds, 6 seconds. 5. At the end of voting on that resolution, we have 154 shareholders physically present and by proxy voting in favor of that resolution with a total shares of 2,945,297,121, representing 100%, no against. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I hereby declare the motion carried unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. Cussons. We'll now proceed to Resolution 7, special business, which is to pass the resolution that the general mandate given to the company to enter into recurrent transactions with related parties for the company's day-to-day operations, including the procurement of goods and services on normal commercial terms, in compliance with the NSE rules governing transactions with the related parties or interested parties, be and is hereby renewed. Can I have somebody please second this motion? Mr. Akinduro, thank you very much.
Yeah. For the purpose of voting on that resolution, please press 1 if you are in favor of that resolution, while you press 2 if you are against the resolution. The poll is about to commence. Just a minute. Yeah. That's to renew the general mandate given to the company. We have 4 shareholders voted, 5. 6 shareholders already voted for the president. Still have, the poll is still open. We have 8 seconds left, 7 seconds, 5, 4, 3, 1. Poll closed. At the end of the voting on that resolution, we have 154 shareholders physically present and by proxy voting in favor of that resolution, with a total shares of 2,945,297,121, representing 100%, no dissenting voice. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I declare that that motion is carried unanimously. Distinguished shareholders, ladies and gentlemen, having completed all the business on the agenda for today, it's my distinct honor and pleasure to declare the meeting closed. Really just to make some closing remarks. First, to thank our directors that have stepped off the board in the last year, particularly our former chairman, Chief Kola Jamudu, who, as you know, not just was chairman of our group, but of the company, but was very, very instrumental to the growth of the company. You know, again, I'm sure that on behalf of all our shareholders, you know, to extend well wishes to him and a thank you for his many years of service to PZ. Also, to Alhaji Lawa Batagarawa, to Malam D. Mohammed, and to all our other executive directors that stepped off the board. Again, to just thank them for the many years of service, their devotion to our company over the years that they sat on the board. And finally, really just to thank our shareholders for the very, very warm welcome that you have extended to me, and my commitment to all our shareholders and our stakeholders is, you know, an attention to our company, a commitment to the transparency that we continue to exhibit, and to really say that the future is extremely bright in spite of COVID, in spite of difficult economic conditions that we find ourselves in, and that management and our board will continue to work very hard to deliver the results that our shareholders expect of us. So on behalf of board and management, I thank all of our shareholders for the keen interest they've shown in the affairs of our company, and I wish everybody traveling mercies back to their respective destinations. We'll now take the national anthem. Thank you.